The palace of Zareth Prime shined with crystal towers and golden lights. It was the day of the grand wedding between Lord Kranos, a proud alien warrior, and Lady Vera, daughter of the High Chancellor. Hundreds of alien guests filled the great hall. They wore heavy robes, shining armor, and jeweled crowns. Their voices were loud, their laughter sharp like knives. And in the middle of this shining crowd stood a single human maid. Her name was Lyra. She wore a plain gray dress. Her hands carried a tray of drinks, shaking slightly under the heavy crystal cups. Her eyes stayed down. She did not speak. She was told never to speak. To the aliens, she was only a servant. Humans had been defeated long ago. Now they were spread across the galaxy as workers, cleaners, or slaves. Aliens saw them as weak, soft, and slow. And tonight, Lyra was chosen to serve at the most important wedding of the year, not because she was skilled, but because she was human. The aliens wanted entertainment. "Look, a human," one alien lord whispered loudly. His skin was green and scaled, his teeth sharp. "Careful, she may drop the drinks. Their hands are clumsy, like children." The guests laughed. Lyra kept walking, her head low. Another alien lady waved her jeweled fingers. "Girl, bring me wine. And hurry, before your tiny legs break." Lyra walked faster. The tray wobbled. The laughter grew. The bride, Lady Vera, noticed and smirked. Her gown was made of silver silk, and a crown of black stones rested on her head. She leaned close to her groom and whispered loudly so all could hear, "How fitting, a human made to serve at my wedding. Truly, we rule this galaxy." The groom, Lord Kranos, grinned. His armor shone red. He raised his goblet and said, "To weak humans, may they always serve us." The hall exploded with cheers. Aliens lifted their cups, laughing, mocking. And Lyra stood in the middle of it all, holding the tray, her face calm though her heart beat like fire. She had lived through years of humiliation. She knew the words by heart: weak, useless, slave. She had heard them all. Tonight was no different. Yet inside her something else burned. A secret. As she served the drinks, a small alien child pointed at her. "Why do humans walk like that? Like broken machines?" More laughter. Lyra gave the child a kind smile, though her hands were still shaking. One lord shouted, "Dance for us, human. Show us how your kind begs for food." Another laughed louder. "No, no, make her sing. Their voices are so ugly." The crowd clapped, their eyes on Lyra, waiting to see her humiliated. The music stopped. Even the bride and groom looked, expecting her to obey. Lyra placed the tray down on a table. For a moment, silence filled the hall. She stood still, her hands folded. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "A storm is coming." The guests frowned. What did she say? Lyra raised her eyes for the first time. They were calm, steady, almost glowing in the candlelight. "Laugh while you can," she said softly. "The storm will reach you soon." The hall froze. For a moment, no one spoke. Then an alien burst out laughing. "She threatens us? The maid." He slapped the table. "Did you hear that? A human thinks she can scare us." More laughter followed, louder than before. The bride's face twisted in anger. "Silence her," she ordered. A guard stepped forward and raised his hand to strike Lyra. But before he touched her, the walls of the palace shook. A deep, thunder-like sound rolled across the hall. Boom! The chandeliers rattled. The cups shook on the tables. Some guests stumbled. "What was that?" one alien shouted. Outside, in the distance, came a roar. Not a machine, not thunder, but a living roar that shook the very glass of the palace windows. The guests turned pale. The guards looked at each other nervously. The bride frowned. "Ignore it. Continue the music." But Lyra's lips curved into the smallest smile. She whispered, so only the nearest guests could hear, "He is here." The aliens blinked. "He? Who is here?" Lyra lowered her head again. Silent now. She did not answer. The roar came again, louder, closer. The ground trembled. The golden doors of the palace shook under some heavy force outside. The laughter of the aliens began to fade. Some guests whispered in fear. The guards ran to the doors, weapons ready. But Lyra stood calm. Her eyes never left the doors. The aliens did not know. The bride and groom did not know. No one in the hall understood the storm that was about to break. But Lyra knew. She was not just a servant. She was a sister. And her brother had come. The roar outside grew into a thunderous cry that silenced the entire wedding hall. Every alien eye turned to the doors. The air grew heavy with fear. And in that heavy silence, Lyra's voice was soft but sharp, cutting through the hall. "You laughed at humans tonight," she said. "But the one who comes will make you regret it." The aliens stared at her, unsure whether to laugh again or tremble. The doors shuddered once more. The roar echoed like fire. The storm had arrived. The golden doors of the palace still shook from the roar outside. Yet the aliens forced themselves to laugh again. They did not want to show fear, not at a wedding as grand as this. Their pride was stronger than their sense. The hall filled with mocking voices once more, though some of the laughter sounded thinner, weaker than before. Lord Kranos stood tall at the center, his red armor glowing under the crystal lights. He raised his goblet and smirked. "It is nothing, perhaps thunder or a beast in the wilds. We are warriors of the stars. No roar will ruin my wedding." His words were sharp, his pride louder than the noise outside. Lady Vera nodded beside him, though her hand gripped the edge of the table. "Yes," she said, her voice strained but firm. "This is our day, and no sound, no storm will change that." The guests cheered at her words, trying to drown out the trembling in their hearts. They clapped their hands, stomped their feet, and turned their eyes back to Lyra, the human maid. It was easier to mock her than face the fear clawing at their minds. One alien lord sneered and shouted, "Look at her! She pretends to know something. She dares to warn us. A human maid, daring to speak to her masters." Another lifted his cup and laughed. "Weak creatures always dream of storms. They think shadows will save them. But storms die, and humans die with them." The crowd roared in laughter again. Cups banged against tables. Wine spilled on the floor. Their voices grew wild, almost desperate, as if mocking her could silence the sound of the roar that still echoed outside. Lyra stood still, her hands folded in front of her. She did not move, did not flinch, though her ears caught every cruel word. Her heart was steady now. She had waited for this moment for years. Every insult was like dry wood, and the storm outside was fire ready to burn. A tall alien guard stepped closer to her. His armor was black, his weapon sharp. He looked down at her with a cold smile. "Tell me, human, who do you think is coming? A savior? A king? Perhaps another weakling like you?" Lyra raised her eyes slowly. Her calm gaze unsettled him more than any weapon could. "Not weak," she said softly. "Not broken. Stronger than you imagine." The guard snarled and raised his hand to strike her. But before he could, the ground shook again. The chandeliers above rattled so hard that shards of crystal rained down, cutting into the fine silk tablecloths. Guests screamed and ducked, though none dared run. "What is this?" Lady Vera shouted, her voice breaking for the first time. Lord Kranos tightened his jaw. "Nothing. It is nothing. Guards, hold the doors. Do not let anyone in." The guards obeyed, pushing against the giant golden gates. But the gates themselves groaned, as if something outside was breathing against them. Some alien nobles began to whisper to each other. Their proud eyes flickered with fear. "It is not thunder," one muttered. "No storm shakes the ground like this." "Perhaps a beast," another said, though his voice shook. "Yes, a beast from the mountains." "No beast has a roar like that," the first whispered. The laughter of the hall began to fade again, replaced by nervous silence. But one alien, drunk on power and wine, slammed his cup down and shouted, "You are all fools! Do not fear shadows, and do not listen to the human's lies. She is only a maid. She knows nothing." The hall turned to him, He stood tall, his jeweled robe glittering. He pointed at Lyra with a sharp finger. "Kneel, girl. Kneel and beg forgiveness for daring to frighten your betters." Lyra did not kneel. She did not move. Her calm eyes stayed on him, and then drifted back to the doors. Her lips curved into a faint smile. The alien's anger burned hotter. "You dare smile?" He grabbed a dagger from his belt and raised it high. "I will carve that smile from your face." But before his dagger fell, the roar came again. This time it was so loud that the very palace shook. The tables jumped, the goblets shattered, and the golden gates burst inward with a thunderous crack. The guests screamed. Guards stumbled back. Dust and smoke filled the air. Through the broken doors came heat, the kind of heat only living fire could bring. And as the smoke cleared, shadows moved in the doorway. A figure stood tall, wings spread wide, eyes burning with fury. But the aliens did not see clearly yet. Their fear blinded them. They clung to their laughter like drowning men clung to driftwood. "It is nothing," Lord Kranos shouted again, his voice sharp but trembling. "Nothing can harm us here. We are the rulers of the galaxy. We are." His words stopped as a massive clawed foot stepped onto the shining marble floor. The palace grew silent. Even the bravest voices went still. Only Lyra's voice remained, soft and steady, as she whispered once more, "I told you. He is here." The palace doors crashed open with a sound like thunder breaking the sky. The golden gates that once guarded the grand hall now lay shattered on the marble floor. Dust filled the air, mixing with the smell of smoke and heat. Every alien in the hall froze. Their laughter died in their throats. Their eyes widened, staring at the shadow that filled the doorway. Through the smoke, a figure walked forward. He was taller than any alien warrior, his body wrapped in dark, battle-worn armor. Huge wings stretched from his back, their scales glimmering like molten metal. His claws tapped against the floor as he stepped inside. His eyes, glowing with fire, scanned the hall with a predator's calm. Gasps filled the room. Some alien nobles stumbled back, their jeweled robes dragging on the floor. Guards raised their weapons, but their hands shook. The music had died. The wedding feast had become a battlefield of silence. Lord Kranos gritted his teeth, trying to hide his fear. "Who dares enter this hall uninvited?" he shouted, his voice echoing in the quiet chamber. "You stand in the palace of the High Chancellor's daughter. Speak your name, or be torn apart." The figure stepped forward into the light. His face was human, yet not fully. His jaw was sharp, his skin marked with faint scales. His eyes burned like fire trapped in stone. His armor carried scars of battles fought across unknown worlds. His voice was deep, heavy, and filled with power. "I am Kale," he said slowly, "born of human blood, forged in fire, made in war." The aliens shivered at the sound of his voice. It was not only a man's voice. It was something more, something ancient, something dangerous. Lady Vera narrowed her eyes, though her hand clutched the edge of her gown. "A hybrid," she whispered. "Half human, half beast." Kale's burning gaze fell upon her. Then it shifted, not to the bride or groom, not to the guests, but to the simple maid standing at the center of the hall. Lyra. Her calm eyes met his. She did not look afraid. For the first time that night, she looked safe. "You," Kale said, his voice softer now, "no one will harm you again." Whispers spread through the hall like fire. "She knows him. He came for her." A human maid calls a monster to the palace. The alien's fear turned to rage. Lord Kranos raised his weapon, a curved blade glowing with red light. "You dare insult me on my wedding day? You dare bring filth into this sacred hall?" He pointed his blade at Kale. "You are nothing but a broken experiment, a mistake of war. You will kneel before me." Kale's eyes narrowed. "No," he said. "It is you who will kneel before humanity." The guests gasped. The insult was unthinkable. For ages, humans had knelt before aliens. To hear such words in the heart of the Chancellor's palace was like fire to dry wood. Guards rushed forward, their armored boots striking the marble floor. Blades gleamed, rifles powered on, glowing with deadly light. The hall filled with the sound of weapons charging. Kale spread his wings wide. The firelight in his eyes flared brighter. His voice thundered like the roar of the storm outside. "You laughed at my people," he said. "You mocked my sister. Tonight you will learn fear." The first guard charged, swinging a blade. Kale caught the strike in one clawed hand and crushed the weapon to pieces. With a sweep of his wing, he sent the guard flying across the hall, slamming into a pillar with bone-breaking force. Another fired a rifle. The shot exploded against Kale's armor but left no mark. He turned his head slowly, his eyes burning with fury. In one step, he closed the distance, seized the alien by the throat, and lifted him high before hurling him into the wedding feast table. Plates shattered, wine spilled like blood. Screams filled the air. Guests scrambled to escape, their pride forgotten. The chandeliers above shook as Kale's wings stretched wider, casting shadows across the hall. Lord Kranos shouted, his pride still clinging to him. "All of you, kill him! Kill the beast!" Dozens of guards swarmed, their weapons flashing. But Kale moved like a storm. His claws tore through armor. His wings knocked enemies aside. His fire-filled breath scorched the floor, leaving trails of glowing heat. Every strike was a message. Every roar was a promise. Humans would no longer kneel. Through the chaos, Lyra stood still. Her eyes followed her brother's movements. She did not cheer, did not cry, but her lips moved in silent words. "You came." Kale fought with fury, but also with purpose. He was not here only for vengeance. Every strike, every word carried weight. At last, he stood before the bride and groom. Lady Vera stepped back, her crown slipping from her head. Fear twisted her face, though she tried to hide it. Lord Kranos raised his glowing blade again, his pride unbroken. "You think you can frighten me, half-breed?" Kranos roared. "I am a warlord of the galaxy. No human, no beast, will ever bring me to my knees." Kale's eyes burned brighter. His voice rolled like thunder. "Then I will break your pride, as you tried to break my people." The two faced each other, the hall trembling around them. Aliens cowered in the shadows, too afraid to move. The maid, once mocked, stood tall in the center, her brother's shadow covering her like a shield. The warlord lifted his blade. The hybrid raised his claws, and the palace held its breath. The wedding hall was no longer filled with music or laughter. It had become a battlefield. Smoke from broken lamps curled upward, mixing with the heavy scent of fear. Shattered crystal lay across the marble floor, and overturned tables dripped with spilled wine that looked like blood. At the center of it all stood Kale, the dragon soldier hybrid, his wings stretched wide, his eyes burning like fire. Before him, Lord Kranos stood in shining red armor, his curved blade glowing with deadly light. Around them, guards formed a circle, weapons raised, ready to kill. But no one moved yet. The air was thick, waiting for the clash that would decide everything. Lord Kranos snarled, his voice shaking with anger. "You dare challenge me, half-breed? In my hall on my wedding day. You will die here, and your sister will serve us until her last breath." His words echoed across the hall. Gasps rose from the alien nobles. All eyes turned to Lyra, the human maid, who stood tall behind her brother. For the first time in her life, she did not look down. She did not hide. Her calm gaze locked on Kranos, unafraid. Kale's voice thundered. "Touch her, and this palace will burn." The guards finally moved. With a roar, they charged, weapons flashing. Blades cut the air, rifles blazed with energy bolts. The hall erupted in chaos once again. Kale roared back, the sound shaking the very walls. He swung his wings with a storm's force, knocking the first wave of guards off their feet. His claws slashed through armor, tearing it like cloth. Fire burst from his mouth, a stream of heat that melted metal and sent soldiers screaming to the ground. But still more came. Lord Kranos led them, his glowing blade cutting through the air. He moved fast, faster than most aliens. His strike aimed for Kale's chest, deadly and precise. Kale blocked with his armored arm. Sparks flew as blade met claw. The sound rang like thunder, echoing across the broken hall. The two warriors locked eyes. One fought for pride. The other fought for humanity. "You are nothing," Kranos spat, pressing harder. "A failed creation. A monster that should never have been born." Kale's voice rumbled like fire in the mountains. "I am not a failure. I am proof. Proof that humans are stronger than you ever believed." With a surge of power, Kale pushed back, throwing Kranos across the floor. The alien lord crashed into a pillar, shattering stone. But Kranos rose again, fury blazing in his eyes. Around them, guards continued to fall. Some tried to flee, but Kale's wings blocked their path. The nobles screamed, hiding under broken tables, their jeweled crowns lost in the chaos. Lady Vera clutched her gown, her silver crown slipping from her head, fear twisting her once proud face. Kranos roared in rage and charged again. His blade slashed at Kale's wings, leaving a burning cut. Kale growled, pain flashing across his face, but he did not falter. With one claw he caught Kranos' arm. With the other he struck, his claws ripping through the alien's armor. Kranos staggered back, blood staining his chest, but his pride did not break. "I will not fall to a human," he shouted. "Never." Kale advanced, fire glowing in his throat. "Then you will burn." He unleashed a blast of flame, the heat roaring across the hall. Kranos barely rolled aside, his armor smoking as the fire scorched the floor. Pillars cracked, banners turned to ash. The once beautiful wedding hall became a ruin of fire and shadows. Lyra watched, her heart pounding, yet her face stayed calm. She knew her brother's strength. She knew his purpose. But she also knew this battle was more than vengeance. It was a message. Every alien watching would carry the memory of this night. Kranos rose once more, his armor broken, his blade dimming. Yet his rage still burned. He charged again, screaming, striking wildly. Kale caught the blade with both claws. The two locked in a deadly struggle, sparks raining as weapon and armor clashed again and again. Their roars shook the palace. Every strike felt like thunder. Every move cracked the marble floor beneath them. Finally, with a surge of power, Kale wrenched the blade from Kranos' hands and hurled it across the hall. The glowing weapon clattered to the floor, its light dying out. Kranos fell to his knees, breath ragged, eyes wide with disbelief. "No," he whispered. "This cannot be. A human cannot defeat me." Kale loomed over him, his burning eyes steady, his voice heavy with judgment. "This is not only for me, not only for her." His claws pointed toward Lyra, who stood proud among the broken glass and smoke. "This is for all of us. For every human you mocked, enslaved, and crushed beneath your pride." Kranos' face twisted with rage and fear. He tried to rise again, but Kale pressed him down with a clawed foot. The alien lord trembled under the weight. For the first time in his life, he knelt before a human. Gasps filled the hall. Nobles stared in shock. Guards froze in fear. The world they knew was breaking before their eyes. Kale's voice thundered through the ruined hall. "The age of human weakness ends tonight." Silence followed, heavy and endless. Every alien knew the truth. The laughter was gone. The pride was gone. All that remained was fear. But Kale did not strike the final blow. Not yet. He looked at his sister, standing tall and unbroken. "The choice is hers," he said softly. All eyes turned to Lyra. The maid who had been mocked, insulted, and humiliated now stood at the center of power. Her calm eyes studied Kranos, broken and kneeling, then rose to meet the fearful faces of the nobles. For the first time in history, a human servant held the fate of her masters in her hands. The hall waited, breathless, for her decision. The wedding hall lay in ruins. Smoke drifted from shattered pillars, and fire still burned across the marble floor where Kale's breath had scorched the ground. The golden banners of the chancellor's house were torn and blackened. Nobles huddled in corners, their jeweled crowns forgotten in the chaos. At the center of the destruction, Lord Kranos knelt, broken and defeated, Kale's claw pressing him into the floor. Around them, silence hung heavy, broken only by the crackle of flames. Lyra stood nearby, her once plain gray dress now dusted with ash, her eyes fixed on her brother. The maid who had been mocked all evening now stood as witness to the fall of a warlord. Kale's burning gaze swept across the hall, his voice echoing with fire and power. You think humans are weak. You believe we were born to serve. That is the lie you told yourselves for centuries. His words struck the aliens harder than any claw. Whispers rippled through the hall as nobles exchanged fearful looks. Kale stepped forward, his claws scraping against the cracked marble. He released Kranos and let him collapse, trembling. His voice grew louder, shaking the walls. But here is the truth. Humans were not born weak. We were made weak. Broken, chained, experimented on. Gasps spread through the crowd. Some aliens shook their heads, refusing to believe. Others lowered their eyes, guilt flashing across their faces. Kale's wings spread wide, shadows falling across the room. Long ago, when humans rose as warriors, you feared us. You saw our spirit, our fire. You knew we would never kneel, so you cut us down. You used your science to weaken our blood, your chains to shatter our pride. You told the galaxy we were nothing but servants. And you laughed while we suffered. His voice thundered. But I am proof of what you feared. Proof of what you tried to erase. A human stronger than your best soldiers. A hybrid forged from your experiments, but loyal only to my people. The nobles shivered, their faces pale. Some hid behind overturned tables. Some stared at him as if he were death itself. Lady Vera, still standing in her silver gown, clenched her fists. Her crown had fallen, her pride cracked, but her voice rose in anger. Lies, she shouted. You speak lies to frighten us. Humans are dirt, always dirt. Kale turned his burning eyes on her. Then look around you, he said. Look at your guards, broken at my feet. Look at your warlord, kneeling before me. Look at your nobles, hiding like frightened children. And look at her. He pointed a claw at Lyra. The hall turned to the human maid. She is the one you mocked, Kale said. You called her clumsy, weak, useless. Yet she stood calm while your world crumbled around her. She feared nothing because she knew the truth. That humans are not broken. That our time is not over. Lyra raised her chin. Her eyes, once lowered in silence, now shone with quiet strength. The aliens murmured in shock. Some could not meet her gaze. Some trembled as if the sight of her was worse than Kale's claws. Kale stepped closer to the bride and groom. His shadow fell across them, dark and heavy. You asked who I am. I am the storm you feared. I am the fire you tried to smother. I am every human you called worthless, given a voice, given strength. Lord Kranos tried to rise, blood still dripping from his wounds. His voice was broken, but his pride clung to him. If what you say is true, then you are more dangerous than I thought. You are a threat to the galaxy. Kale's eyes burned brighter. Not a threat, a warning. If humans rise again, if the chains are broken, the galaxy will remember what true strength is. The hall went still. His words cut through fear and pride alike. For a long moment no one spoke. Then an old alien noble, his jeweled robe torn, whispered. He speaks the truth. I was there long ago. I saw the wars. Humans fought like no other race. That is why we feared them. The hall gasped. Some turned on the old noble, their eyes wide with betrayal. But others nodded, shame in their faces. The truth had been spoken, and it could not be hidden again. Kale's voice lowered, but it carried across the ruined hall. You can no longer bury the truth. The galaxy will know. Tonight, every guest here will tell the story. Not of a wedding, but of the night a human maid stood proud and a dragon soldier broke your lies. Lyra stepped forward now, her voice calm but sharp. You thought this night was yours, but history will not remember your crowns, your gowns, or your laughter. It will remember the day humans stopped kneeling. Her words fell like thunder. The aliens trembled. Some bowed their heads. Some clutched their robes, their pride in tatters. Even Lady Vera, her silver gown torn and crown gone, could not answer. Kale turned once more to the hall, his wings stretching to their full size, firelight reflecting off his scales. "I give you a choice," he said. "Accept humans as equals, or keep your chains and face extinction." His voice echoed through the ruins, shaking the nobles to their core. And in that silence, every alien understood. The galaxy had changed. The grand wedding hall was no longer a palace of light. It was a ruin of fire, smoke, and fear. Pillars lay broken. The crystal chandeliers were shattered. Ash covered the marble floors, and the air reeked of scorched stone and spilled wine. In the center of the chaos stood Kale, wings spread wide, his claws dripping with blood and broken steel. His eyes burned like two suns, holding the gaze of every alien noble in the hall. Before him knelt Lord Kranos, his red armor cracked and broken, his head bowed in defeat. The once proud warlord, feared across systems, was now silent under the claw of the dragon soldier hybrid. Beside Kale stood Lyra, no longer a nameless maid, no longer a silent servant. She stood tall, her ash-stained dress glowing faintly in the firelight, her calm eyes steady as she looked upon the enemies who had mocked her. The hall trembled with silence. The nobles dared not speak. The guards who survived pressed their backs to the walls, their weapons forgotten. Even Lady Vera, once so proud in her silver gown, clutched her skirts and lowered her eyes. Kale's voice thundered across the ruins. "You mocked my people. You called us slaves. Tonight you see the truth. Humanity will not kneel again." His claws pressed harder against Kranos' chest, making the warlord groan in pain. Now the galaxy must choose. Respect humans as equals, or be destroyed by the fire you tried to bury. The nobles shivered. They had seen the storm's fury. They knew these were not empty words. Kranos spat blood, lifting his head with the last of his pride. You cannot change the galaxy with one battle. There are millions who will never bow to humans. You cannot fight them all." Kale leaned close, his burning eyes inches from Kranos's. "Then let them come. Let them all come. I am not one man. I am a symbol. For every human you crushed, every servant you mocked, every child you chained. My voice is theirs. My fire is theirs. You cannot kill us all, because humanity is not finished." The warlord's eyes widened. He tried to speak, but no sound came. The weight of Kale's words crushed him more than claws ever could. Then Kale turned to Lyra. "The choice is yours, sister. What fate do you give them?" Every head turned. The nobles stared at Lyra, the human maid they had humiliated only hours before. Their hearts pounded with fear, knowing that her words now held their destiny. Lyra stepped forward. She looked at Kranos, broken and bleeding. She looked at Lady Vera, trembling in her ruined gown. Then she raised her chin, her calm voice filling the hall. "You called me weak," she said. "You laughed at me as I served your cups and cleaned your tables. But tonight, it is you who kneel, and it is you who tremble." The nobles whispered in terror. Lyra's words cut deeper than Kale's claws. She continued, her voice steady, clear, unshaken. "I will not be cruel as you were. I will not strike down the helpless. But know this, humanity will never be silent again. From this night forward, we stand as equals. And if you dare treat us as slaves once more, then my brother's fire will not stop." Her words echoed like thunder, stronger than any weapon. Kale nodded slowly, pride glowing in his burning eyes. He lifted his claw from Kranos' chest and spread his wings wide. "You have heard her judgment. Remember it. Carry it to every corner of the stars." He stepped back, letting Kranos collapse fully to the floor. The once feared warlord lay broken, his armor cracked, his pride shattered. He was alive, but his defeat would never be forgotten. Lady Vera dropped to her knees, her silver gown stained with ash. Her crown rolled across the floor, stopping at Lyra's feet. With trembling hands, she whispered, "Forgive us." But Lyra did not answer. She only looked down at the fallen crown. A human made no longer, she was something greater, though she did not need a crown to prove it. Kale's voice thundered one last time. Remember this night. Tell the galaxy what you saw. The age of human silence is over. He turned to his sister. It is time we leave. Together, they walked through the broken doors, stepping into the storm-filled night. The fire of the ruined hall glowed behind them, and the whispers of terrified nobles followed them like shadows. Outside, the sky was alive with thunder and lightning, as if the very heavens had witnessed the judgment. Kale spread his wings, lifting Lyra onto his back. With a powerful beat, they rose into the storm. The palace grew smaller beneath them, its golden towers scarred by fire. The galaxy had changed in that one night. For generations, humans had been mocked as weak, forced to kneel, treated as servants. But now, a new story spread like wildfire across the stars. The story of the maid who stood tall, and the dragon soldier who broke the pride of the mighty. Nobles whispered it in fear. Servants whispered it in hope. And everywhere, humans lifted their heads a little higher. For the legend of Kale and Lyra had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.